This is the story of Final Fantasy XIV, Endwalker, Part 3 of 5. Now, where we left off at the end of Part 2, the Watcher told the heroes that killing Zodiark actually initiated the final days. Then the Watcher tells them that the moon was not just a prison for Zodiark, but that it's also a vessel for transporting people away from Etheirys to a new star. Let's get started. The Watcher tells the heroes that the golden dog Argus will take them to the pilots who can fly the moon vessel. They meet Argus in a cave, and the Watcher remarks that it's incredible how Argus is so comfortable around the hero, and that he's normally not so friendly to strangers. He manifests reflections of himself so that everyone has a ride. The heroes fly to the vessel's entrance and head inside.
Our moonship pilot should be around here somewhere. Is that right?
An army of tiny rabbit-looking people emerges from every crevice.
Look lively, everyone!
One bunny appears to be in charge of the others and gives orders to the rest.
As of now, our mighty moon has a new purpose: to bear the people of Etheirys to safety! I expect your workstations to be immaculate, and don't forget to relay our signal to Etheirys.
While they busy themselves, the heroes are quite surprised.
'Tis a rather curious crew she hath chosen. Their endearing forms intended to ease the passengers' hearts, perhaps.
The heroes meet their leader.
My name is Livingway, and we are the Loporrits, created for the express purpose of commanding this ship and bearing the people of Etheirys to a brave new world.
The Loporrits repeatedly refer to the heroes as children.
A calamity of apocalyptic proportions will be visited upon Etheirys, bringing an end to all life. Very sad, love.
They again confirm that this was all anticipated in advance, and that the moon itself is a vessel to transport everyone to safety.
And then, once everyone is aboard, it's off to another star.
The Loporrits know Hydaelyn and even her original name, Venat. They refer to the heroes as children again, and this time Thancred says something.
I'm not sure what led you to conclude otherwise, but I can assure you that we are all grown men and women.
Y'shtola explains that they are the typical size for adults today, so the Loporrits are surprised that not everyone is the size of the Watcher.
Change of plans! I need you to rebuild the domiciles at 1/3 the scale!
Livingway wants to learn as much about them as possible. She calls this place Bestways Burrow and says it's supposed to accommodate them as best they can, so she begins a tour. Livingway gives them a tour, in which they try some amazing carrots and put on some clothes tailored for them. While they've certainly done a good job, Y'shtola points out that people will prefer a variety of food and clothing, and everyone has different tastes. The Scions depart from Livingway to explore Bestways Burrow on their own, but Urianger opts to stay with Livingway instead. Later, the hero overhears Urianger in conversation with Livingway. Livingway is upset that the heroes aren't satisfied with their accommodations, but she asks Urianger if he'd help their collaborators on Etheirys prepare for the journey. The hero never hears Urianger's answer. Growingway then takes the hero to Greatest Innsvale, his forest that he's very proud of. This confuses the hero, since the forest has no trees, but a bunch of crystals. Urianger leaves somewhat abruptly. Later outside, Urianger reveals to the hero alone that he has been asked to help the Loporrits in secret. He then recalls the sacrifices made by Grahatia and Minfilia, and regrets that he made no effort to stop them.
That resignation weigheth heavy on my mind, as does the memory of another lost to mine inaction. Dearest Moonbringer, who did face death unflinching, that we might secure a means to bring low the Ascians.
He's also concerned about how they will have to choose who is saved and who isn't.
How do we make peace with the dreadful algebra of necessity?
The hero gives him some encouragement, and he thanks him.
As for the Loporrits' proposition, I will take time and consider how to respond.
Moments later, Livingway approaches and says Y'shtola needs to speak with the hero urgently. Back in Bestways Burrow, Y'shtola says she did not urgently request the hero, and Thancred suggests they track down Urianger. Instead, Growingway suddenly says he can take them to the archives to get more info on the final days. At the archives, the door is locked and Growingway says we need to search for the key, but Y'shtola says she's had enough of the runaround. Growingway confesses that they're trying to force them to stay. They think it's a waste of time to try and stop the final days, and they just want to make the vessel as ready and as inhabitable as possible. They trust Urianger, so they let him go. But next, the Loporrits draw their weapons. It's just a few of them, so the hero fends them off while the other Scions scatter. Meanwhile, Livingway escorts Urianger to the Watcher's Tower.
And what, pray tell, do we seek at the Watcher's Palace?
They explain it's time for him to help the collaborators back at home start the journey, but he says he won't do it. The other heroes approach, but Urianger signals for them to pause a moment.
For millennia, you and yours worked tirelessly towards the singular purpose of this heavenly vessel's construction. An arduous feat by any measure.
He goes on to praise them for the love and dedication to the people of Etheirys. He says that they still have so much to learn of humanity, as does he. He says he wishes to stay and study with them, and he gives Livingway a bottle of blue ink.
And with that ink, let us fill the empty pages of Livingway's compendium. There you have it. I shall remain with the Loporrits to ensure that all is in order.
Urianger goes on to say the escape vessel is a last resort, but he will do his part to prepare for this backup plan. The hero pulls out his special flower, and the Watcher says they used to call it Elpis, and that the name is important to remember. Y'shtola says the collaborators on Etheirys must be the Sharlayan Forum, and the Loporrits are surprised that she figured this out. Her and the other Scions decide it's time to return home. The heroes, except Urianger, teleport back to the Tower of Babel and decide to head to Camp Broken Glass. Back at Camp Broken Glass, Lucia explains how they're tending to the wounded and tempered, and that all Telophori towers have now vanished. The hero updates Lucia from his end, and Lucia says they should tend to the final days then and are not needed at Broken Glass. Before they leave, Maxima reports that Garlemald has denounced Xenos and considers him a traitor. The Scions meet at the Baldesion Annex, happy to see that Kryl has recovered. The hero updates the others about Zodiark, the final days, the moon vessel, and Urianger staying behind to help. Y'shtola says they now have the task of finding the source of the final days, something the ancients never figured out. Tataru bursts in to say that the forum is addressing the public outside, so everyone rushes over.
This day we must speak of grave affairs and their implications for the future of Sharlayan, nay, of this very star.
Barnier begins to speak of the final days. He pauses to release the enchantment which bars them from speaking of their sacred duty.
By unanimous decree, I declare the enchantment broken.
Borshinal steps forward and tells it all. He says 270 years ago, researchers in the Dravanian hinterlands found a passage to the heart of the star, and Hydaelyn herself.
She spoke to them of a calamity that would extinguish all life, and of a means by which we might be spared. The moon. 'Tis in truth a gargantuan vessel built to serve as sanctuary for her children, and deliver them from this doom.
The Forum has maintained close contact with the servants of Hydaelyn, who presently reside on the moon.
You reveal this to us now? By the gods, how long do we have?
While we cannot say with certainty, we believe the hour to be nigh, which is why we must in earnest begin preparations for the great exodus.
It is our solemn charge to see our heritage preserved for future generations.
With that, I hereby call this assembly to a close.
Once the crowd scatters, the twins realize their father's coldness may not be self-serving.
I wish to speak with father before we leave.
Alfino approaches his father and says that those who choose to flee are free to do so and he will help them, but there are many who cannot or will not, and this is why he will stay.
This is why we choose to fight.
We'll not ask for your understanding, father. Only that you don't turn a blind eye to the good we have done. That we can still do.
Alice says they will do everything to stop the impending doom.
Do as you will. Just stay out of our way.
He leaves and the other Scions join the twins again.
Were he not so consumed with self-righteousness, he might tell you how proud he is of you both.
The others give words of encouragement, and then Thancred suggests it's time to rest, so they return to the Annex. Back at the Annex in his private room, the hero has a brief vision of fire raining from the sky. Then Grahatia knocks.
If you could spare a moment before bed.
He expresses concern for how much the warrior has done and how much burden he carries.
Let me share your burden.
He says they will look back fondly on all of this one day, then leaves.
Sleep well, my friend.
Meanwhile, around the world, some people are acting strangely. And Erenvel senses something is wrong.
Why does it feel as though it's about to get much worse?
Next morning at the Baldessian Annex, Kryl says she just received reports that, near Radz-at-Han, vile beasts have appeared out of nowhere and the sky is on fire. No other info was given, so the hero sets out immediately.
And our sins ascend unto the heavens. Three dooms to unmake all we were.
The sky burns. The final days are truly upon us.
The Scions meet the Satrap and he says late last night the earth itself cried out and then all this began. He explains how the vile beasts appeared.
The people of Radz-at-Han themselves transformed into these baleful fiends. The people decry them as blasphemies.
He says right now they are rampaging in the jungle of Vanaspati, where there are a number of small villages. He says Virtra wants to help but refuses to kill beings that were once his own people. The Scions offer their help.
I have no words to express my gratitude.
The heroes enter Vanaspati and carve their way through all sorts of abominations. When they reach the end of the jungle, they defeat a monstrous serpent called Svarbanu. Terrifyingly, as Svarbanu dies, Y'shtola remarks she was never able to see it. She only senses ether and does not see as others see, so this means there was no ether present at all in this creature.
Where the creature should be, I saw naught but emptiness. The instant these people are seized by the transformation, their ether begins to rot and crumble away like dried mud.
They return not even to the ethereal sea.
Virtra and the Satrap approach, and the Satrap says it's time they reveal the secret about the dragon to the people, but Virtra refuses and leaves. Estinian convinces the dragon to take him along.
Let us return to the capital and plan our next course of action.
The Satrap and the heroes go to Radz-at-Han to investigate. In Radz-at-Han, the hero and Grahatia ask around about what happened. They learned that a once wealthy merchant who had fallen on hard times was at a bar in the city and suddenly transformed into a vicious beast. Then the skies turned dark and he rampaged through the city, taking many lives. The witness says he was actually a kind man and he was speaking about being unable to help local artisans when he went grim and transformed. Asking around some more, Grahatia sees a pattern, that everyone who transformed was feeling fear or despair just before it happened. The Scions meet outside to combine what they've learned.
The tales we heard were much the same. The first victims to be changed into blasphemies were all overcome with anguish of one manner or another. Then those who saw their loved ones stolen before their eyes succumbed to a similar panic, setting in motion a chain of transformations.
Y'shtola notes similarities with the ancient final days, but Alphino points out a difference.
While the beasts the ancients faced were forged with magic alone, those of today are born of sentient beings. Why remains to be seen. But there is one fundamental difference between us and our predecessors. Our souls are sundered, whereas theirs were not.
Look! It's the Satrap!
The Satrap acknowledges this isn't over yet, but assures the people the city is now secure.
Have faith that we shall soon conquer this terrible trial.
Matsya, the fishmonger that the hero assisted on his first trip to Thavnair, approaches in a panic. He says Palaka's stand has been ravaged by beasts. An elderly lady nearby worries about her grandson and has a breakdown.
You tell me to be calm! You saw those beasts! They tore our bravest warriors limb from limb!
She transforms into a hulking monster, and it sets off a chain reaction of horrific transformations.
Damn it! We've got to kill them before it spreads!
One beast eats the Satrap.
Vitra, our people, you must save them.
Rahatia finds he is able to stop a transformation by soothing a panicking villager. The hero, the twins, and Matsya head for Palaka's stand while the other Scions stay in the city to slay the beasts. In Palaka's stand, many are dead and wounded around them as they speak to a surviving elder. The elder tells them of a couple with a baby who fled and will need their help. Running after them, they encounter the man dying on the ground. As he despairs over his wife, he begins to transform, but the hero is able to stop it with reassuring words. He dies peacefully, and the hero continues the search for his wife and child. Meanwhile, Estinian is informed by Link Pearl of the Satrap's death, but also that the heroes have learned that the transformations are triggered by despair. He relays this info to Virtra. Virtra laments, and Estinian pushes him.
Will you wallow in sorrow, or rise to the occasion? Before he passed, Ahawan sought to reveal the truth to his people. Honor his wishes.
Where could she be?
The heroes are still looking for the missing wife and child, though they have been able to help other villagers along the way. Most of the villagers are feeling hopeless, so Alisei is worried about them becoming beasts as well.
The more they dwell on the tragedy, the more likely we are to lose them too.
Matsya calms them by speaking of their religious teachings.
Did they not implore us to stand fast when waves of sorrow break against our shores?
Afterwards, Alisei spots something.
Did you see? That beast was chasing someone.
And they give chase.
That's her!
The hero dives in, and moments later emerges with the baby, noting that the mother has already died. Just then, still more beasts attack. Alisei tells Matsya to return the child to the village while the heroes fight off the beasts.
Be strong, Matsya. Her life is in your hands.
Right. I can do it.
I know you can. We'll keep them busy, Matsya. Go! Quickly!
The baby is crying and appears to be transitioning.
No! No! Not you too! No! I'm not afraid! I'm not afraid!
Just as he's barely surviving, he encounters more vile beasts, but is saved by Estinian and Virtra. Then Virtra soothes the baby.
Well, well. Seems the babe's taken a liking to you.
Everyone regroups back at Palaka's stand, and Virtra reveals himself as the true satrap to the remaining villagers. Nedhana arrives, and the dragon is making the speech, and she realizes Varsahn was just the dragon's proxy body. She says she's here with her fellow alchemists to assist with potions. She starts by making delicious hot chai, and the hero helps pass it around. With the situation under control in Palaka's stand, the heroes head back to Radz-at-Han. Back at Radz-at-Han, Varsahn approaches the public for a speech.
People of Radz-at-Han, it warms my heart to see so many brave, resilient souls before me. Today, I would share with you a great revelation.
He tells them not to be afraid as he introduces Virtra to them, and Virtra reveals he's the real satrap.
Let us hope they accept him.
If I am hearing this right, you were the satrap all along?
Countrymen, calamity the likes of which we have never known is come to Favner, our home. Ahawan loved this land and served it with dignity till his dying breath.
He says he will not abandon this land.
A font of boundless vibrancy, this jewel of the ocean. I pray you let me watch over it. Over you.
I do not know you, dragon, but I thank you for speaking the truth to us.
A sight that would have surely brought a smile to Azael's face.
Indeed.
Suddenly, Fortunal arrives with a group from the Forum.
Father!
On behalf of the Forum of Sharlayan, I come with a proposal by which you, the people of Radz-at-Han, might be saved.
I am Satrap here. Speak thy proposal.
Fortunal begins by explaining the final days.
It will invariably spread to every corner of the world. The Forum was forewarned of this apocalypse several centuries ago.
And he informs them of their escape plan.
Escape the star? What madness is this?
'Tis by no means madness.
He tells them that the second moon is in fact a vessel for transporting people off to a new star. Virtra says he will consider it, but ultimately will let the people decide. As the Forum members are taken to the city, he leaves and the crowd disperses. Just then, Nadhana approaches.
Oh, you're still here. What a relief.
She's got a theory. The beasts have no ether, yet they still move and act out their will, so they must be powered by the alternative source, which is distinct from ether.
Akasha. Yes, I remember. An energy influenced solely by emotion.
I posit this as the mechanism by which the beasts are born and sustained. Do you still have that flower? The forces which drive the final days may be beyond our ability to perceive. Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you like that. At any rate, I will continue my research into Akasha.
I wish you well in your endeavors, and pray you take care.
As she departs, the heroes are invited to a feast to honor them in Radz-at-Han. That evening in Radz-at-Han, the heroes discuss the final days over dinner. The Warrior of Light says that delegates sent from nations all over the world have asked for his help. Alisei says they need to get to the source of the problem.
We must find a solution that addresses the fundamental cause.
Y'shtola says they can no longer hear Hydaelyn, and they don't even have her flower. The hero recalls the Watcher telling him to remember its name, Elpis.
So advised the Watcher. But what could be the significance of that name? It is entirely unfamiliar to me.
Alisei is frustrated that only the ancients know the significance of this word.
It's not as if there are any ancients living we could go and ask.
Not alive as such, but not quite dead. Elidibus. I sealed him in the White Horusite at the Crystal Tower back on the 1st. Naught may remain of his soul. However, if part of it lingers, we might be able to speak with him there. I know we can no longer make that journey, but you, my friend, still can.
The hero agrees to this desperate plan. The others maintain their unending resolve.
To the last, let us all do what we can. I will consult with Master Matoya and see if she knows of a way to reach Hydaelyn from the Ethereal Sea.
And I will visit the nation's leaders and attempt to ascertain how far the final days have progressed elsewhere.
I can seek out and slay the worst of the immediate threats, if only to slow the spread.
Unease, terror, despair. Try as we might to suppress them, these emotions will return to harry us time and time again. But when they do, remember this. Your friends and loved ones are out there somewhere, sharing in your struggle. You are not alone.
The hero returns to the First, and Lena greets him warmly. She reports that all is well on the First, but Reen was recently disturbed by something. The hero meets with Reen, and she says she's had visions of the skies ablaze, despite the fact that everything seems fine on the First. The hero tells her of the final days. She says her fears are therefore confirmed, and tells the hero to help the Source because the First is doing just fine. They part ways. The hero goes to the Umbilicus, the room that was once Grahatia's private chamber, to find the white auracite that contains Elidibus' soul. He extracts the sliver that remains of him.
My home. My friends. No more than a dream. You. Why have you awakened me?
The hero explains his mission, and Elidibus treats him kindly. He says it was Fandaniel who discovered the issue about weak celestial currents and conceived of the plan to summon Zodiark to remedy it. The hero then inquires about Elpis.
Elpis. Yes. The name is familiar to me. Yet I know it not as a flower, but a place. A testing facility for determining which of our creations were fit to be released into the world.
He says that Fandaniel, before having that name and before joining the convocation, was the chief researcher there.
He was Hermes.
Despite this being aeons ago, Elidibus is struck with something.
Wait. I saw you there. In Elpis.
Then he gets an idea.
You must travel to Elpis, to the time when Hermes served as its chief.
He says from the time he spent in this tower, he knows how to make this work.
As such, I believe I can deliver you unto the past, unto that place and that precise moment.
But he explains that the Warrior of Light will be traveling so far back in time that he will be faded and unable to effect change.
For the reality you wish to save, the reality to which you must return, exists as a result of the final days. In full knowledge of this, will you still entrust your life to your foe and make the journey?
The hero agrees to it.
Very well.
Elidibus consumes the very last bit of his essence to make the portal, saying with Zodiark gone, there is nothing left for him.
Now go, Warrior of Light. Go, and do not look back.
The hero finds himself unable to talk to anyone or interact with anything in this far distant past. After a few minutes, two men with familiar voices arrive, and they seem to sense him.
By the by, you see it too, yes? A bit thin in the ether, but there's no mistaking it. The color of its soul is almost identical to Azem's.
So let's leave it be. Come now.
But one convinces the other to feed the apparition of the hero some ether and bring him fully into being.
You may open your eyes.
Oh, you even adjusted its size. Greetings. I am Etheirys, Chief of the Bureau of the Architect. Sulking beside me is the most honorable Emmet Selk of the Convocation of 14.
The hero introduces himself and says he's here to speak to Hermes.
Well now, the same as us. Perhaps Azim wished to come too, but had to settle for a familiar. My apologies if we've given offense. The two of us can discern the color of souls, you see, and yours happens to resemble that of a friend.
Etheirys insists on letting the hero tag along, despite Emmet Selk's protests.
Welcome, my friends, to the testing ground of creation at Heaven's Edge, Elpis.
Hermes! Visitors! We have visitors!
The hero, Emmet Selk, and Etheirys, newly arrived in Elpis, begin to search for Hermes. And part 3 ends there. If you want to see what happens next, check out my video on Endwalker's story part 4. See you next time.